First of all, welcome to 2026. Things are gonna be a little bit different around here. It's still me, same concept, same perspectives, but I definitely think I want to change a few things around the channel because for the last year I've been really studying the platform, seeing what matters. And it seems like even though I don't really want to, I need to embrace some amount of short form content. So, one of the biggest things you're going to notice is probably a lot more of this, which is vertical style video. Vertical video is different from what I usually do, which is like landscape, like the wide version. And the idea of shooting my videos twice just seems like a little bit much. So I thought if I embrace shooting vertically for certain situations, it's gonna make converting that stuff into short form a little bit easier. So yeah, this whole video is probably gonna be in vertical, even though we don't want to. I think they're kind of trying to force us to do it. But with that said, I'm not getting bullied by any platform, and I'm not going to do it more than I feel is necessary. But I do want to explore it, and I think part of it is like having something to post that's actually in the proper format. I've been uploading some of my normal landscape stuff, and it definitely just seems out of place. Who knows? But check these out. These are my birthday flowers, so happy birthday to me. 26.
You're 26?
Cut the camera. Though I enjoy putting it in my videos, is not always necessary. And in order to make my content more friendly for either platform, not having music in the actual edit is going to make that footage more usable for me overall. That way I don't have to just go back and keep recutting my old segments if I want to use them in different platforms. So one thing I experimented with quite a bit last year was like dropping the music out completely in certain segments and just trying to balance out when there's music versus when there's not. And though music can absolutely add, it can definitely take away. It can be distracting. And as someone who wants to try to, really elevate the platform, drop more content next year, make sure I'm more omnipresent, putting stuff out on TikTok, because I do think that it's a bit of a requirement. I'm definitely using less music in the future than I have in the past. Of course, I could always edit something, use the music, and then have to like render it back out again to put it on another platform. But workflow is very important to me. So I'd rather measure twice, cut once. But there's always a certain... We just finished watching a movie about a guy making a movie. And I gotta say, I'm just really inspired. Like, one thing that I'm taking into 2026 is just like enjoying myself, like having fun making stuff. And I don't know if you guys see that in the projects I've made lately, but I think as I distance myself from creating professionally, I really am starting to enjoy the actual process of making things, coming up with ideas, just experimenting and taking it back to why we all started this. Picking up the camera, having fun, making stories that we care about, and not worrying about the results. Like, there's definitely going to be some of that, but I think as long as I'm creating more, I will create more opportunities to make the things that I truly am passionate about. Haze machine, better lighting, just kind of slowly creeping up the production, not to be fancy, but more so because I really want to try to optimize my content for television viewing. My focus is and has always been, more of that longer video. So because of that, I definitely think I want to start creeping that level of production up just a little bit. But I definitely don't want to, one, complicate my process, two, decrease the amount of projects I'm able to put out, or three, make it less enjoyable, and four, make it less authentic. Once you get that bigger camera, you tend to have to do more setup, which requires less catching things in the moment and more of like setting up and really having it all mapped out. And I don't want to do that all the way. But quite honestly, it's just because cameras are so cheap now. Like, for what I paid for this, I probably could have gotten a full frame or even a cinema camera, but I just didn't want that for my workflow. Now that I'm using so many more of these smaller cameras to do a lot of the heavy lifting, when I come back home and I want to film something that looks a little bit nicer, have a little bit better lighting, and to kind of compensate for the fact that my lighting isn't great here, then it makes sense. And also wouldn't break down as quickly on a television screen. I've been going back and watching some of my videos on television. I can see where, yeah, a different camera would maybe perform a little bit better. And I think I'm kind of at that point. Like, I've grown enough to feel like, all right, maybe I can take the production value up a little bit without interrupting my workflow too much. But like I said, I'm never going to compromise that. Like, if it's going to mean I'm not putting stuff out because the storage issues or just workflow, it's going to be the first thing to go. This year I learned to let go and embrace imperfection.
Picked this camera up earlier on in the year. I was looking for something cheap that would give me a vintage feel. I had been looking at maybe getting one of those vintage cameras, but the process of uploading like traditional vintage style VHS camera footage and then processing it over into a full HD format is way too much for me for a vlog. So when I found this thing for a crazy low price, I was like, yeah, this is pretty much all I need for what I'm looking to do. I'm definitely gonna be doing a dedicated video on this because I've had so many people reach out about this camera based solely off of the fact that I mentioned it. For now, I will just say I'm gonna continue to bring new and interesting perspectives. I'm definitely gonna continue to share the gear I'm using because, for those of us who want to document, like I think it's cool to be able to see different ways to do it. And I'm definitely looking forward to the DJI Pocket 4, but I gotta be honest, I'm pretty much sold on the 3. So I'll probably get it because people are gonna ask questions and it'll be a good opportunity to make some more content. Like, I have to be real with myself, doing videos on certain gear is definitely going to bring more eyeballs to the channel, so that's an important piece of everything. But I honestly feel like I have the perfect camera setup for the kind of content that I'm making today. Fine. But with that said, my channel is still dad content. You have to ignore the titles a little bit because I'm playing the YouTube game, I suppose. And careful, buddy. It's just kind of what you have to do.
All right, I'm going to wrap this video up. This has actually been a little bit exhausting. Shooting vertical is so different than what I'm used to, but that's okay. I think I'm up for the challenge. There's a word that I used to pride myself on, that I used to think was really important, and that word is consistency. But see, over time, I've come to realize that I'm not that much interested in consistency. I'm actually more so interested in growth. And growth comes from doing uncomfortable things. Growth comes from breaking patterns. Everyone says if you want to be successful, you have to be consistent. And I think there's some truth to that. But at the same time, I think growth is probably more important. Growth means learning skills that you didn't have. Growth means going places you don't usually go and meeting people and doing things that you're not used to doing. I'm actually kind of glad that my channel didn't grow as fast as I wanted it to, because it's given me a lot of time to think. Like, my process has changed tremendously over the last year. When I started out, I was really focusing on this camera and, the setups and the tripods and the cinematic angles and all that stuff, like just stuff that's not that important, that was taking up so much more of my time. And nowadays I'm focusing more on the ideation, more on, the planning, more on the process to be able to do things that are repeatable. Sometimes they're things I don't want to do, but they are the necessary steps to get me to where I'm trying to go. The content is always from my perspective as a dad, but I've definitely taken my foot off the gas a bit in terms of leaning into the storyline, because I don't want to get to a place where my life, like the intimate details of my life, become the story. Like, I don't want that. And also I try to be really careful considering, my son. But I think one of the beauties of the new algorithm, despite it being a challenge, is like, if I make Dad's Diaries, if you don't have me on all notifications, You don't see Dad's Diaries. You literally only see the camera video. It seems like I could have 50,000 subscribers and each type of video goes to a different segment of my audience. I don't know that for sure, but that is my feeling about the way things are going right now. And I've been watching the numbers. I've been watching, the way my videos are being sent out, and that's hopefully what's going to happen. I have a backup plan and I have a backup channel and things like that. So we'll see. But dad content is at the heart and soul of this channel. So this is my call to action for you. Depending on what style of my content you're interested in, I would say that you should definitely check your notifications box appropriately. If you want all my stuff, if you like the dad content, if you like the creative stuff, all notifications. If you only want camera stuff, then personalized. I think honestly that maybe for the way I deliver my content, all notifications is probably the best way to go because I integrate everything within my videos. It's just the title. Like, it's just the title. It's so, how can this platform be so smart yet so dumb? I've noticed that some people seem to have dropped off, but new people are always coming. But that's the thing, is like I'm not trying to tread water. Like, I'm really trying to grow. So if you want to grow with me, please follow along. If you want to join the Discord, there'll be a link in the description. Anything I can do to help you guys out as creatives, as parents, as dads, let's do it. Yeah, 2026. It's gonna be a lot of fun.